Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Weekly Academics, and you're listening to Faiza Inamdar. And this is the sixth podcast of our fourth chapter. And in this one, we'll be discussing the contributions of Bipin Chandra. In the earlier ones, we've discussed the characteristics, beliefs, methods of struggle of the assertive nationalists, and we've also already discussed the contributions of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So in this one, we're discussing the contributions of Bipin Chandra. And as I say, this one's also quite easy to understand, just like you need to understand what the person actually stood for and what his actions were. And another thing, yes, as I always say, if you put this into a form of a chart, it will be quite easy to recap when it's the time of your exams. So now, just quickly, I'll give a quick background for Bipin Chandra. So Bipin Chandra was actually born in Sylhet, which is now in Bangladesh, in the year 1858. Later on, when he started his career, he was a headmaster of a high school in Cuttack, and then he served as a headmaster of a high school in Bengaluru. Later on, in 1876, he also worked with Raja Ram Mohan Roy through the Brahmo Samaj, in the Brahmo Samaj movement. So that's quite a bit the background for Bipin Chandra. So now let's get into his contributions. And the number one is his role in awakening the national consciousness of the people in India, or arousal of nationalistic feelings. So Bipin Chandra, as we all know, was also a member of Congress, and in the third session of Congress, that is in 1887, which happened at Chennai, he made a very powerful speech where he pleaded that the Arms Act should be repealed. We've studied about the Arms Act, so he pleaded that the Arms Act should be repealed, and it was quite a powerful speech. And he is also quite known for his oratory skills. So with such speeches and several other contributions to the Congress, he contributed in awakening or in helping the growth of national consciousness in India. Okay, so that's the first one. Moving on to the second, quite linked to this one, is his skill as a great journalist and a marvelous orator. So Bipin Chandra was a very great journalist, and he edited several newspapers, among which one worth mentioning is New India, which he started in 1901. And he says, and I quote, "Individuals are born, individuals die, but the nation lived forever," unquote. So with such powerful lines and powerful articles, he reached out to the people. He also moved around the country and addressed the masses, and people really got attracted towards his speeches, as he was a great orator. He was a marvelous orator. So using that skills also, he tried to address the people and talk to them, make them aware of the situations around. So that's the second. Now the third, like we studied for Bal Gangadhar Tilak, his role in the anti-partition movement in Swadeshi. So Bipin Chandra really believed in Swadeshi and boycott, so much so that he wanted these to be the means of national freedom. And also in the anti-partition movement, he moved around throughout the country to several places. Again, link it to his oratory skills. He addressed masses and spread the message of boycott and Swadeshi throughout. He delivered in 1907. He delivered a quite powerful speech on Swaraj, several speeches in fact, in Chennai. Okay, post partition and and just quite before the Surat split. Okay, so that's the third one. Moving on to the fourth one, he was someone who has really made a lot of sacrifices. Now we've seen that assertive nationalists were the ones who suffered the most, and Bipin Chandra was also one of those who really suffered a lot. So that's this fourth point is about his great sacrifices that he made for his robust nationalism. So this can be described by just one small incident which happened. So after the Surat split, these people separated, right? The assertives separated, and they started taking their own methods up. And Aurobindo Ghosh was also one of the assertive nationalists. We've seen that. So Aurobindo Ghosh was the editor of Bande Mataram, and he was charged for sedition. Now the British government wanted Bipin Chandra to give a testimony against Aurobindo Ghosh. Okay, And Bipin Chandra Pal denied this because it is obvious Bipin Chandra Pal, Aurobindo Ghosh, these all people were working for the same cause and they were working together. So they were working for their own country, and he could not really do that. Think ethically, think logically, and think out of a feeling of patriotism. He would never do that. So he denied to give the testimony, and because he denied to give the testimony, he was imprisoned for 6 months, and then he was later released in March 1908. Okay, so this was just one example. There are quite a lot of other examples where these people were the ones to suffer the most. Okay, moving on to the next point, that's the fifth point, his ideas on national education. So he believed that education, number one, is a key to is an instrument of social progress. Second, he believed that it is necessary to educate the people to arouse nationalistic passion against the foreign rule. And thirdly, he believed that if the people are educated, it is like a key which opens up the great treasures to Indian philosophy and the Indian cultures and traditions and the glorious Indian history. And it's education that will bring them, that will create awareness about this in the general public. So he strongly believed in educating the general public in all the various domains. So that's how he supported the fourth point which we studied in methods of struggle, that is national education. Moving on to the sixth point of Bipin Chandra Pal's contributions, which was he was quite impatient with the Gandhian methods. Now, Bipin Chandra Pal did not really support movements like non-cooperation movement of 1920, which we'll be studying on in detail later on, because he believed that these movements were a bit slow. He believed that they needed sterner movements. Okay, so like other assertives, he also believed in sturdy movements that would pressurize the government. Okay, so this is a small point but important in understanding him as a person. Okay. Now, last and final point is his ideas on economic matters. So, one point which can be included under his press and literature is he has written 2 great publications, that is The Spirit of Indian Nationalism and The New Economic Menace to India. These are 2 important literary works that he's done. And in these books he mentions and talks about his own economic ideas, his own ideas on economic matters. So you can include this under the column of literary works. And also, he is given certain remedies to eradicate poverty in India. So the number 1 is to develop lot of industries in the country. These are all relevant to that particular period of time. Okay. So the number 1 is develop lot of industries in the country. Number 2 is tax the rich more than the poor and then use the money of taxation for the welfare of the poor, like their education, health, etc. So even today we follow kind of a similar system, right? The taxation is on percentage basis. So the one who earns more pays more. And then that money is used for the welfare of the people who do not really have a lot of resources. So that's the second one. Third one is 48-hour work in a week. Work for 48 hours in a week and increase in the wages of the labor class. And the fourth and the last one is practice of Swadeshi and boycott. So as I said earlier also, he completely and strongly believed in Swadeshi and boycott, and he wanted them to become the means of national freedom. So these are basically the contributions of Bipin Chandra Pal, and later Bipin Chandra Pal died in 1932, and Aurobindo Ghosh refers to him as one of the mightiest prophets of nationalism. Okay, so I'll do just a quick recap of contributions by Bipin Chandra Pal. Number 1, his role in the Congress about awakening national consciousness in people, his role as a journalist and narrator, then his participation in anti-partition movement and Swadeshi movement, his great sacrifices, his idea on national education, he being impatient with Gandhian methods, and his ideas on economic matters. So that's all for today's podcast, and in the next one I'll come up with the contributions of Lala Lajpat Rai. Until then, you're listening to Faiza Inamdar at Weekly Academics, and yes, till then, if you want to listen to something soothing, relaxing, calm, peaceful, beautiful, you can always listen to podcasts made by Dr. Sabiha Inamdar, or all available on YouTube channel Your Life in My Voice. And also, until then, subscribe my channel, that is Faiza Inamdar. Like this videos, share it with all your friends so that it helps them in their history work. And for all your doubts, feedbacks, comments, put it down in the comment section or DM me at weekly.academics. Until then, you're listening to Faiza Inamdar at Weekly Academics, and stay home, stay safe, be healthy. Bye bye.